it's kind of like, you know, they're like, why did you write on my building? And I'm like, why did you put your building in my city? You know, it's like, you know, flip it around like that. I live in the city. You know, just because you have the financial, economic, you know, social means to like put up a building, I don't got nothing to say about that. You just drop something right in the middle of my backyard. Did anybody ask me? Do I want to see that?
I don't like that, because we're all in this situation, bombarded with something. Aren't you then, in a sense, possibly bombarding someone, putting something in someone's face that they may not want to see?
Right.
It's
And
kind of like a
that's
little
very true.
war.
Right.
It's like, you know, I don't like that you put stuff in my face, so I'm going to put stuff in other people's face, and then they're going to be pissed about that, and then they're going to go do something else. So it's kind of...
It's like it is like a
I
little
really don't
bit
like. I'm saying I don't like the reasoning because I like the art, but
Right.
I don't like the reasoning.
Well, it is a little bit like a war and
Yeah.
being a bit kind of like
A rebel.
guerrilla art tactics, you know. And it's and you know what? It's I don't expect a lot of people to like it. The people who like it, you know, I'm super happy about that. But it does doing this does garnish you a lot of negative press and response. And it just goes back to, like, you know, you interact with your environment's part of you, but you're starting to feel alienated from things because everywhere you look, somebody else is controlling something. I was joking with my friend in the car on the way over here that I probably need a 12-step program or something. But, yeah, the patch. Little aerosol patch. Yeah.
Put xylene into your bloodstream.
Right. Eventually it's going to slow down because, you know, or it has started slowing down. I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm trying to get other things going as far as my art career. That's taken a lot of time and energy, and with getting that stuff going, obviously, you spend less time running around in train tunnels and along highways. So yeah, you do. You know, eventually life does take over, and you have to slow down and take care of other responsibilities. Will I ever stop for good? Probably not. You know, my landlords at the place that I live, they're still doing it, and they're almost 40. You know, there's a guy down in New York just recently arrested, Stay High 159, 52 years old and still going. You know, and I think that's great. I think that's great. I think that's amazing that a 52-year-old gentleman is still walking around with paint and markers and doing his thing. And it's just like believing in your art form and believing, you know, really believing in what you do and how to do it. And it's, you know, not only is it an art form, but it's also a lifestyle and a culture. We have our own way of talking, communicating. And I think you know, I think that's great. Yeah, other things are going to take over, and I'm going to be concerned with money issues and that, but, like, you know, the minute I have a free Sunday and the wife's taking the kids shopping, I'm like, throw a couple cans in the bag and sneak out the back door and go find a wall somewhere, you know. At work and breaking it down and being like, oh, I think your connection here was off. You made the bottom of the E too heavy. It's not balanced. So there's definitely critiquing process that goes into it. And the people that know how to balance the letters right. There's a formula for making a letter. And E's like, you know, you got a straight back and 1, 2, 3. You know, you have 1 vertical and 3 horizontals. That's what makes up a capital E. And off those connections is where you bend the letters, break them, you know, throw your pumps, your arrows, your kicks, and so the other, you know, we definitely do sit around and go through photos and talk about our work and critique it. And as I was saying before, there is very good graffiti and bad graffiti, just as the way someone playing an instrument either knows what they're doing or will hit that squeaky note and you're like, you know. And it's the same visually. I see some beautiful things, and I see other things that are a squeaky note, and I'm going, It's kind of hard to explain. You just know, you know. How do you know Jordan was going to be the star basketball player he was? He was just a natural at what he did, and he found a medium that just... It's a constant process of evolution with it. You know, just, you know, with anything, it becomes more complex and more, you know, evolving. The graffiti that was done in 1970 was extremely simple compared to what goes on today. You know, just as the cars in the 70s were less technically advanced, you know, than the cars today. Everything, you know, everything in the world is on a constant process of evolution and evolving and becoming more complicated. And it's the same with this art form. You know, once you understand it, you can look and go, wow, I didn't think of doing that. That's brilliant right there. That's genius. I would have never thought of putting those colors together or bending an E or an F that way. It's like, wow, you know. it's, you know, just the way Jordan would come out and dunk, you know, it's like, wow, he's very specific and has specific rules, and it's very hard for the untrained eye to tell the difference between good graffiti and bad graffiti and what makes it up. You know, once you have some history, you know, once you understand the history of it and the evolution of the artists and who broke what rules and who developed this, that, you know, it's all known to graffiti writers. I can sit here and tell you, the first person to do a top to bottom on a subway, the first person to do a white outline, the first person to do a drop shadow, you know. So along the way, people, you know, were advancing, and there's a whole history to it that, like, anybody that does this that's worth their beans will know the history of it, just as, you know, an art historian would be like, you know, Renaissance and then, you know, the Baroque period, whatever. They can break down the different movements and what made those, what classifies, or what elements of that artwork classify it to that movement. It's the same with the graffiti, you know. This guy was doing, you know, Phase 2 was the first guy to come up with the bubble letters, you know, and really develop that. Stay High was one of the first guys to do top to bottoms on the subway train, meaning going from the very bottom of the subway train all the way to the top, covering that space. You know, when graffiti first started, it started as just a signature on the bottom of the subway car, just, you know, your alias, your name, like Joe Cool was here, and eventually as competition became fiercer, and subway cars became more crowded, someone decided, hey, you know, not only am I going to do my little signature, but I'm going to do a line around it so nobody, you know, as kind of like a border. And then from that, someone came up with the idea, okay, well, I'm going to do that border, but then I'm going to fill it in and then do the border around it, and it became bigger and more grandiose that way and evolved that way. But through that, people started studying, you know, studying the letters, like I said, E, you know, capital E, 1 vertical, 3 horizontals, and people started deconstructing the letters and coming up with letter theories. You got Ramble Z with his theory of armored lettering. You know, you had FC TC5 crew doing on the ones, rocking a lot of like long extension pumps. FBA style had a lot of crisscrossing bars that were straight letters that define their style. You know, there is a whole history to this. You know, with evolution, with different groups doing different things with different style schools. So, does that make any sense at all?